Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Cure, a Japanese horror film from 1997 that was directed by Kiyoshi Kurosawa and stars Koji Yakusho. A wave of gruesome murders is sweeping Tokyo. The only connection is a bloody X that's carved into the neck of each of the victims. Now in each case, the murderer is actually found near the victim, just sitting there like waiting to be caught. And they remember nothing about the crime. So Detective Takabe and psychologist Sakuma are called in to figure out the connections between these crimes, but their investigation stalls early on, until they suspect that a mysterious drifter has hypnotized people to commit acts of murder. And that's not a spoiler, because they show the bad guy doing his thing within the opening 10 to 15 minutes. So of all of the Japanese movies I've seen, Cure is still my personal favorite. Now, this is quite possibly the most fascinating, deliberately paced film in existence. The tempo moves slower than molasses in January, but the introduction of the lead bad guy at the very start of the film sets this seemingly endless array of intriguing moments into motion right from the get-go. Masato Hagiwara, the actor, who plays the bad guy, Mamiya, is spellbinding in this flick. He's got this hypnotic technique that starts off with like seemingly trivial dialogue with his victims, but then it slowly progresses into like a psychological trap. And this provides for a number of really memorable moments involving our bad guy. My two favorites are the water enchantment, I guess you could call it, of the hospital nurse, as well as the prison escape sequence. In addition, the identity of this character is expertly crafted as kind of like an ambiguous soul personality whose essence is only really truly revealed at the very end of the film. No other film, I think, has created a villain so like dangerous, mysterious, and interesting as this Mamiya guy. Now, the script writing in Cure is very impressive. In reference to the bad guy's tactics, you have this, seemingly trivial dialogue during the bad guy's scenes with his victims. But they're actually hypnotic acts of villainy. And you gotta kind of pay attention to it. They're kind of an odd mix of superficial dialogue, but then you realize how important that dialogue is in later scenes after these murderers are subjected to police interrogation. Because they met this hypnotist at one point who coerced them into committing these crimes, but they have trouble remembering him. And you got to pay attention to understand why. Now, the viewer should note that there's a lot of attention to detail in this film in general. At one point, we see Koji Yakusho's character in a diner. Again, no spoilers here. But he, in one scene, he's got a lot of food left on the plate. Later on in the film, there's no food left on the plate. You know what I mean? So it's small details like that give you like a little revelation in his essential change in character throughout the film. I would also like to point out the final shot of this film, which is one of my favorite shots of any film ever. Like ever. There's so much that's communicated in that final shot without any dialogue at all. It's just phenomenal stuff. And you gotta follow what's going on in this film. This is not a film that you put on with your buddies when you're drinking beer and eating chips. It's just not one of those films. It really isn't. You got to watch it by yourself. You really should. And lock yourself down and pay attention to it and really immerse yourself into it. A lot of this director's films are that way. But I think it's just awesome. In fact, I would say Kiyoshi Kurosawa is one of the greatest directors of all time, in my opinion. What's really interesting is that he employs like this distinct art house style to a lot of his films that makes his films identifiable, very distinctive. You can tell a lot of times when you're watching a Kiyoshi Kurosawa film. A lot of times, like, you can tell you're watching a Dario Argento film or a Quentin Tarantino film. You know what I mean? They have distinct styles about them, and this guy does as well. He uses long shots without edits, deliberate pacing, certain camera angles, ambiguity. And he uses them in moderation, though, a lot of times. And he mixes in, like, thought-provoking imagery and like philosophical and psychological themes and everything. So this is a little bit different, I think, from some other art house directors out there who have like no sense of discretion and just create like these juvenile, shallow films that are just weird for the sake of being weird. Sometimes I like that, but I prefer Kiyoshi's method more than some other directors out there. Now, Kiyoshi has made his duds over the years for sure, but he's also made a nice, impressive batch of like really unique and creative films that avoid the pitfalls that plague some other directors. He also has a major talent of building creepy atmosphere and location scouting. Some of the locations he films in, I'm like, where do they find this stuff in Japan? You know what I mean? So it's pretty cool. All these qualities make him very special, in my opinion. I don't think he gets the attention he deserves because he was never really blessed with a really strong fan base and vocal fan base that a lot of other directors have that kind of keep them in the spotlight. People don't talk about Kiyoshi as much as they should. I mean, Cure should be one of those movies that everyone under the sun talks about until they're blue in the face. It's really a pinnacle of exceptional filmmaking. It's also Kiyoshi Kurosawa's best film, in my opinion, and there's a few others that are contenders for sure. But yeah, I highly recommend this. Now, it's not going to be for everyone, though. It really isn't when I think about it. But I think it's a film you should definitely check out. It's got that art house style. It's got that deliberate pace. You got to pay attention. Stuff will just go over your head and you won't understand what's going on if you're not really paying attention. So keep that in mind before you go into this one. It is available on Region 2 DVD and Blu-ray, and that's the Masters of Cinema UK release. And as always, I'll see you next time.